Welcome to Abundance Portal. My name is Dea Wisby, and tonight's subject is about homeschooling. So I'm pretty excited regarding this subject because I am a homeschool mom. So I would like to introduce my panel tonight, and I will start with Monica Ortega. Wholeness, Monica.
Wholeness, how's everybody doing? I'm so happy to be here. My name is Monica, and I'm a mom of two. It's an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and it's it's really interesting. It's a learning experience, this online whole situation, but we'll talk it out. So, Wholeness.
Thank you, Monica. So next is Sean. Wholeness, Sean.
Wholeness family, so great to be with everyone. My name is Sean Carline. I am a homeschooling parent and partner with my wife of our daughter who is 6 years old. We've been doing this for the last 2 years officially. However, we've been schooling her at home, since she's been born. So excited to bring some of my experience and share with you all some of the things that we do here, and looking forward to this build. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So next is going to be Veronica. Wholeness, Veronica.
Wholeness. Hopefully we don't have any huge, massive Mack trucks going by. My bad, Sean. Wholeness, everyone. My name is Veronica Fortunati. I'm also a homeschooling mother of two boys, currently in 5th grade and 8th grade. This is new for me. I have been inclined in going towards a homeschooling route for the last 1.5 years. So, I didn't really have to do much, but I'm learning, and we're working with a lot of change in a very short amount of time for both parents and children. So I'm very excited about this call. I'm very grateful to be able to be here on this panel, and I'm really looking forward to talking about some of these resources and solutions that we can bring forth so that we can make this an enjoyable experience. Wholeness.
Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. So next is Tiara. Wholeness, Tiara.
Wholeness, everyone. I'm Tiara. I'm also a homeschooling parent of 2 boys. One who will be 15 on Saturday, and the other is 3. And it has been a challenge so far, but I don't think it's anything we can't work through. I was actually preparing myself to homeschool the 15-year-old this year, but it just came quicker than what I was thinking. I was thinking towards the end, like December, but we'll work through it. Wholeness.
And then last but not least is Life. Wholeness Life. How you doing tonight?
Wholeness. Always good to be amongst tribe and family. And myself, my wife, we are homeschooling our 2 boys. One is 7 and one is 5. And it's I enjoy teaching from home, but I think the challenge is the juggling other work. I have a lot of other work that I'm doing. So looking forward to sharing some of the ways that we are balancing this process. But for the most part, we're doing the best we can.
Awesome. So I saw Paige jump in, so I'm thinking she's trying to join our panel. So once she joins, we'll introduce her. So tonight, big subject is regarding homeschooling. My story is that last year I decided to homeschool my son. He's 10 years old, and it's been a journey. And of what a parent and a child faces when they start this process. And some of us decided to do this voluntarily. However, many parents out here now have become homeschool parents, whether they wanted to, mean to, or not, because of the COVID situation. So with some of the experiences that we have had, some of our panels have been, doing this longer. And again, I've been doing this for a year, so we'll share, whatever we can as well. Life has a community group, and so please reach out to him, Chess and Community. So that's why I'm really excited to have him here tonight, because he deals with children, as part of his job. So we're going to be trying to address a lot of the issues. If we don't cover what we wanted, we'll continue. We'll bring the panel back, of course. So the first thing is like, what is, I'm going to go to Sean, what has your homeschool experience been so far? Wholeness.
All right, family, wholeness. So I'll give you a little bit of background just to start off with. So my wife and I decided not to be a part of the vaccine schedule. And so we opted out of vaccinating our daughter, which was one of the choices we made early on, which led to knowing that in the future, this may come up when it's time for her to go to school. And so we were planning already to, look into homeschooling. And before we knew it, she's 3-4 years old. And we had to start figuring out, well, what are we going to do? And so my wife, Carissa, we both spent a lot of time in, investigating routes to go and how to enter into homeschooling. And it took us a while to find a community. And what we did was we ended up getting involved in some of the Facebook communities and finding people who were in a similar situation like ourselves. And that led us to make really good connections in the community. And that was kind of our foundation. And so through meeting a lot of the people in the community, we started getting suggestions on different programs and different things like that. And we came across a program that was attractive to us called Inspire. And this is in Los Angeles. And Inspire has something set up to where you're assigned a teacher, and the teacher is really there for support and also guidance, And so to us, that made the most sense, because we were brand new into homeschooling, and so we needed that kind of support. And so, we dove in and we started like really doing our homework and looking at what type of curriculum. That was one of the biggest things, was to find the right curriculum for her. And with Inspire, they gave us many options to utilize for her first year. And so having that foundation and that structure really set us up for where we are today. I think that, with the first year of our experience, we really got to find our footing, per se. And that was, there was a lot of things that also went into homeschooling. It wasn't just about the curriculum. It was also about social activities, because that was one of the biggest things for us, was finding a social route for our daughter. Because, everybody that you tell, hey, we're going to be homeschooling, they're like, well, what about, the social aspect? They don't get to play with other kids and all this other kind of stuff. But we found that, in these groups, that there were different activities going on throughout the week. So we ended up, having a full schedule. We even had to turn down events and things like that. And we ended up having a full schedule throughout the week. Not only was it just curriculum, but we had time to go out and play. There were different events that we could go to. There were different programs that she could be involved in that were focused on her art or whatever her interests were, right? Her special interests. And so that was our first experience in homeschooling. And now that we've been this is our second year, our second full year of homeschooling, we've kind of found our way, and now we know what we're doing here. So with that experience, we've just been, growing in the space. But I can tell you that for us, the biggest step was finding like-minded people and finding a support group. And that's what helped us get to where we are today. So that's how I'd like to introduce it.
So Veronica, what has been your experience like?
Wholeness, thank you, everybody, for sharing. Thank you, Brother Sean. So our experience has been challenging, and I've had to basically embrace a lot of the resistance from my older son, who is very adamant about wanting to stay in the schedule that he is in now. We were more in the inner city school system near like South Central area of Los Angeles. And although we've moved out of that area physically, he's still staying virtually through the same school. So he sits in front of the computer every day from 8 a.m. and he's basically asked by the curriculum that he needs to complete all of his work and turn everything in by, I believe, like 4 p.m. So there's a deadline that he needs to meet every day, 5 days a week. So he's basically sitting in front of the computer from 8 a.m. in the morning until about 4:30 in the afternoon. He, in between that time, has one class, which is his physical education class, his PE class, and I think that happens about 3 times a week. And it's not actual physical education. I mean, it's like something that they kind of ask the kids to kind of move around in whatever setting that they have available to them. So my concern as a parent is basically coming from, this is new. My child has a lot of resistance, doesn't really want to do anything outside of what he's doing at the moment. He's turned 13 years old today. So really trying to find the balance between like hanging on and letting go, and trying to really navigate with him, wanting to respect, at some point you have to try to understand as a parent, really be just understanding and how to navigate with kids once they've, reached a certain age. My younger one, so he was doing cross country, doing what they call Students Run Los Angeles here. So that just recently started back up. So I'm super stoked about that because he's actually now practicing once again. His practices just started up again this week, so he's able to, do more of like the 5K runs and the 10K runs. Last year, he actually ran the LA Marathon, so that was awesome. So he's getting back into the rhythm of that, because that was something that was a huge concern for me, is how is he going to continue to receive this like structure and schedule that he had in terms of what he was doing last year for just physical activity. And obviously the social aspect was something else that has really been a point of pain for him, as he's expressed to me, and just trying to navigate that. My younger one, who's in 5th grade, I took Sister Widgerby's support and guidance and advice, and she actually pointed me towards this program called Time for Learning. So we looked it up, and we are about 3 weeks in with my 5th grader, Eric, and he's loving that right now because we get to set his schedule, and that's where I do the curriculum planning, and I assign his work on a day-to-day basis. He's able to log into his student portal and be able to complete the work that I assign for him, and there's no real live Zoom interactive type of thing. It's already pre-planned lessons. Right now it's working. He likes the flexibility. He's able to log in 4 days a week as opposed to 5 days a week. And I really had to kind of find my groove with him in terms of how this kid learns, right? And because he also had a lot of resistance. So, and he was feeling very uninspired. And that was my thing, is that this doesn't have to look like this for the kids. Learning is supposed to be, as I see it, as I want our children to experience learning. I want them to feel inspired to learn, not wake up and feel this dread of like, oh, I have to sit in front of the computer and I have to do this, and at least to the extreme, right? So that's where we are today. I have both of the boys in different programs and just navigating the best I can with them at the moment. So on this. Sister, you got to unmute.
Wholeness, thank you, sister. I'm gonna go to Life because he deals with many different children. So, Life, what do you think of the homeschool situation, and what is your experience?
Man, so it's I come from a unique experience, and one is that myself being an educator, that I teach more on the college level, and my wife, who taught middle school, and she's a teacher as well. So for this, it's like, okay, we're we're diving in, and we already have planned by 2025 to sort of open up like a middle school, because we saw that this was a space where a lot of kids get lost. So when this COVID thing happened, it was like, okay, well, for us, we shifted one of the boys' rooms into like what we call the Learning Academy. And with my wife doing all the research about education, because there's a lot of research, right? What colors are best to use within a classroom? What's the best time to teach? What's the best, how long should a child be teaching? So it's a lot of thorough research about education. And it doesn't surprise me that the school doesn't implement any of that, right? So it's like, wow, you have all this research that said this is the best way to do it, but it's not implemented. So what we did was, when we're teaching our children, we keep it at cap at about 4 hours. And I'm heavy with a lot of work. So me and my wife have to do a tag team. Like I'll take it on Wednesday and Friday, and she takes it Monday, Tuesday. But we keep it at most at about 3 to 4 hours. And it's not, it's difficult. My wife is currently pregnant, right? So it's, going through the morning sicknesses, and sometimes, with homeschooling, you have to be on point, especially if you're teaching. And we still have folders, and we're not teaching them. We don't have them online with the teaching. Everything is still right. You have your folder, you have your loose leaf. These are the different setups. She sets it all up a week before, and they complete like 4 different subjects. And because both of them, to what Sister Veronica was saying, there's different learning styles. I have one child who is a critical thinker, logic, wants to question everything. He thinks deep. And the other one works a lot better with structure, but he's like a math whiz. So there are times, of course, when the kids are not uh, enthused about learning. So we have to always set up like these reward systems that set up, and we implement this STEM aspect where, as part of their learning, I purchased all these different STEM equipments, and where they had to build robots, and robotics are set with computers, and we implement like our math structures and our reading structure. So we just had to get super, super creative. Which, to Sean's point, we've always been teaching them since they were young, but now that we're in this structure, we just had to get extremely creative. So we're not particularly tied into any programs or any online platforms. In fact, we're developing our own model where how do they learn, and how within the learning process they learn everything within one. So if we learn about the ladybug, how many legs does a ladybug have? What does the ladybug produce? How many dots? Let's get into the math. Biology, right? How many children, offsprings does a ladybug have? What does ladybug eat? You know what I mean? And tie everything into this learning process. So as you're learning, you understand what it is that you're learning and what it is tied to in the real world. So that's kind of been this educational model that we've been flirting with, that we're implementing. So fortunately, we've been able to do it. I teach, so I'm teaching from home and I'm doing other things. And unfortunate part is not many parents are in that situation. Not many parents are in that position, as well as, we're able to tag team where there's a lot of single parents that are in the structure. So, so that's one. The online, through our online testing community, we have very scheduled programs. So I would say we give a calendar out once a month where we have a list of all the activities that we're doing, from debates to book clubs to STEM to conflict resolution, so that the kids can get a chance to engage with each other. And we just try to keep it fun, and we try to keep it in a very engaging way. But that goes from more middle school, age 11, up to about age 17. So hopefully I answer your question, and I've made it sound all juicy, but it's really work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in the process, and we just try to balance the process. So as parents, we make the time to say, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to be working with the kids, and this time to this time, my wife is going to be dealing with them. So, and then we have to include the outside, right? So we make sure they go outside and play, find an insect, find a leaf, and then let's figure out a way to dissect the leaf using our microscopes. And so that's the math. So we're finding ways to keep it exciting, but at the same time, trying to keep our time schedule tight.
So thank you, Life. And you brought up a couple of issues that I can't help it, I have to address, because I really do feel this is really the meat of some of the issues that's going to be going on with homeschooling. So of course, thank you to Life and Chess and Community, because Bradley goes to Chess and Community and partake in the book reading. And today he was at the debate as well. So however, like Life said, he's able, he's a teacher, so he's tag teaming with his wife, and they're both teachers and or educators, and they, we have a lot of parents out there who have no idea what this is like, who's like, okay, I have a job, I'm gonna go to the job. So the whole mindset of being a teacher is like, it is a mindset, because I actually was funny. I'm Haitian, and the whole joke within that community is like, they had this joke where this kid is like, on the Zoom with the teacher, and it's really funny. But I was like, oh my God, that's so sad, because I could really see this happening for real. So the kid is on the Zoom with the teacher, and so the teacher asks him a question, but the parent is like, answer, you're not answering. And if you're not answering quick enough and the answer is wrong, so the parent like literally started beating the kid for having the wrong answer. And so it's a joke that's funny, and if you're part of the community, you sort of get it, because the Haitian parents are like very tough on the children. But this is like a real thing. You're gonna have parents who are like, who don't understand the learning process, and that it's okay for a kid to have the wrong answer. You're gonna have parents who are just totally absent, period, and have no idea. So is that kid really learning? So, and also some of the kids, even Veronica had brought this with her son, some of the kids, their whole life, this is where they get socialization from. This is, so I mean, there's, like I said, when you brought some of these things up, I'm like, oh my God, I have to, go in there, because what about those children who don't have two parents, or even one parent, that's an educator, or with the mindset of saying, okay, I'm gonna teach you, whatever. So anyone can answer and jump on this, by the way.
Yeah, it's a very heavy process. It's a heavy, because their whole quote unquote essential workers are those parents. And oftentimes if you have a parent who's dropped out or who hasn't completed a certain level of grading, and then she's seeing this process, she or he still has to work. So it becomes like frustrated. It becomes, it's heavy. It's just a lot to carry. So in that case, this parent, we have something called a parent check-in that we do. And the whole idea is we have got to establish a support system for parents to just talk to each other. What path, what models are you using? What are you exploring? And even take it a step further, you have parents who don't have access to the internet. You have parents that don't have access to Wi-Fi. So on so many levels, these things just get deeper and deeper in some cases. So what we try to do, and again, just to be completely transparent, we're not a school. So I'm not an educator in the sense of, licensed to teach this grade. We look at this as a community enrichment program, and where we provide that level of support for those students that who we know. And we started it because we know that a lot of kids, and they're projecting it, it's already in the data, a lot of people's going to get left behind in this process, because of what you just described. People, the extra learning, being online from 8 to 3, that is not healthy for adults. So how are we going to mandate that for children? So what we try to do is incorporate a physical as well as a digital process. So, and incorporate a reward system. Starting next month, we're going to be giving away PS4s. We got to meet the kids where they're at, right? So giving away PS4s for those kids who are able, who gets the most participation, those kids who are able to really articulate and identify what they're learning from the process. So we have to include a lot of incentives just as ways to keep that engagement going for those students. And then we also include the parents in the book clubs, in some of the process, so that the parents can watch how we're modeling, how the platforms and the way that we're teaching and engaging the kids in the dialogues and in the discussions. And truly, teachers have been saying, man, you get these kids to read 3 books this summer. I can't get the kid to read a paragraph in class. And it's like, because it's the way, it's never the act, it's how you do it. So I can share more into that, but I would love to hear what other people are saying as well.
So I'm gonna jump to Monica. So what are your thoughts and feelings and your experience, Monica?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely relate to what everybody has, talked about. I mean, my kid is, my 8-year-old is transitioning pretty well with the online, but it is, I'm noticing a lot of stress in her. She's like biting her nails, and I talk with her, and I think it's like also like an emotional, thing that they're going through, that they don't get to see their friends. They don't get to have the life that they used to have, right? Because I used to have my kids both in public school. So I think just the whole transition from the online has been, a very challenging part, just emotionally for them, just to, they're kind of waiting to go back to school. And I'm looking at alternatives, because I don't want to continue this online situation. I want to do more of like what Brother Sean was talking about, like a homeschool system with a whole support system, because even this online, schooling, I think it's so rushed and it's so presented by like mandates, and like it has no structure. I mean, it's just kind of thrown in there. Like the teachers are thrown in there, the kids are thrown in there, the parents are thrown in there. So there's like no, I mean, I think this whole month that has been going on, my kids haven't learned much, so just for me, looking at other alternatives for my kids is kind of what I'm looking at, because this public online schooling, especially for my 6-year-old, is really not working very well. I can't keep her on the computer very long. She's just like, changing the screen because she wants to lay down and like fling her body around. She just can't stay still on the thing. She's just like upside down with her leg up, and I'm like, and I mean, I want to encourage her, and I know she's very smart and she wants to interact, but she just cannot stay in front of the computer engaged. It's just not, she's 6 and it's not working for her. So I know there's alternatives, and I'm just going to look into that, because I mean, ideally it would be, great to have a community already, established with, like-minded individuals. Like this would be my ideal, right? To have like, the whole tribe living together with a whole system of education, but whatever, this is just a dream. But it just seems like now I have to really go away from this public school online system that's not really working for my kids, and I'm a single parent, so it's very hard, and I'm self-employed, and it's just like, I'm seeing my kids kind of really, fall apart, and there has to be something else that I can provide for them.
I'm gonna jump to Tiara. Tiara, any comment or share your experience?
Yes, wholeness. So with I'll start with my struggles or my challenges with the homeschooling. I am a single mother, so it's like I have to juggle. It was already hard, but now having them in the house 24/7, well, mostly Tyler, and having to actually do the job of teaching him and making sure he stays on top of everything is a challenge for me, because my schedule is already crazy. I'm an entrepreneur on top of that, which is not all bad. I'm glad that I am, because my schedule is flexible. So I can kind of get in there and work with him. With my 3-year-old, I don't find it as difficult because there's learning and everything. Like what Life was saying, the other morning I had blueberries, raspberries, all these berries, and we sorted them. So he learned how to sort that day, and he counted, and I just let him count. So it was learning and me preparing them breakfast. And then we take a walk. I think it's easier with him because our days are so much more structured, and I have the control of the structure. Whereas with Tyler, he has to be on this class at this time and this class, and that whole schedule is challenging for both of us. But what I have started to do is to help us with both of that, and to help me is I set work hours and I set hours for him, and I just kind of separate the time. It's like his school is a job as well. So I've had to calendar that in and get a schedule together where that works for him. And then as far as me doing my work, I may have to be up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I have to get up much sooner so that I can start my things and get myself together and structure my day so that I can help them. So that's what I've started to do for myself, just to give me some type of balance or give me sanity, actually. And Tyler's struggles are much like Veronica's children and Monica's. They're social. They want to interact with other children. They want to be out and talking. It's hard to even, have a sidebar conversation on a Zoom call with a friend. He can't do that like he could in class, or, just the interaction is what he's really missing. And that's what he's struggling with. And then Tyler he's not really a morning person. So this is a struggle we had prior to going virtual. But now it's a little bit better because he's actually in Missouri, but he is enrolled in a California school. So we're 2 hours ahead, where he can start at 10:30 as opposed to 8:30. So that's helped us a lot, where he can get up and get engaged, and I can get him up a little later where he's prepared and, just ready. But this was not my idea of how homeschooling would be. And so what I did do for him recently was I got his natal chart done and his human design chart done so that I could learn him and start teaching him knowledge of self, so that I can see how he learns and who he is, and we can structure some things a little bit better. And that's what I think I want to focus on more so than the curriculum that they've given us with the school. And I know he thinks it's important. I have to have, my high school diploma, and I just don't think it's necessary. But I don't want to take that away from him either. I think he's been in the system for so long. It's just a matter of he needs to complete it to him, whereas I feel like it's a waste of time. And had they not went virtual, we would have been finished with it. So now that they're virtual, it's like I have to compromise somewhere, and I'm able to let him still go. But it's just finding balance if you can. But sometimes balance is BS. So we try to make it every day. We're on a prayer.
So you sort of hit on something that, which is our next topic regarding curriculum. So regarding curriculum, like how do we set curriculum, like in terms of, if we're looking at what the public system is doing, because let's say you're in California, Veronica's in California, Life is in Georgia, I'm in New Jersey, and we have tribe members all over the country, the United States, and of course the world. So in terms of like curriculum, it's like, okay, what is it that, and the question would be like, what is it that you're going to teach the kid or the child, and so if you look at it, there's all of the states you know, in the United States have different laws, different requirements. And so you as a parent have to now know what is your state's curriculum or, you know, law regarding child education. You know, to me, that's one of the first things to do, to actually know what is the law in your state. Um, you know, and I had to find this out. I found that out for New Jersey last year. So this is one of the reasons why I give Time for Learning as a resource, is because they do have the list of all of the states and what the law, what the requirement is. You know, some states are very, very strict, and some states are very, very lax. So you just need to know what is it. And then, of course, now you need to know your specific district, like where you live, your town's information in terms of school. And I can tell you, sometimes the town itself, like if you call the secretary, if you call the principal, they may not know. So you really need to know in terms of the law itself, the requirement for the state and your local area. And again, this is what I had to find out for me, you know, and again, we're from all over the country. So you find out for you. And then, okay, it's like, okay, if once you know that, well, your child's age, and then what grade the child is in, and then what's the curriculum for that grade. And so, like, so if you were going to go step by step, so, okay, what's the curriculum for that grade? Now, like Tiara said, depending on what kind of parent you are, you look at this, you're like, what the? And then you're like, you know, well, it's up to you. Every parent is different. But if you do take a close look, you know, you're going to make certain decisions. So it's really up to you in terms of, like, once you really see that curriculum but I would say do some of this homework, you know, in terms of, like, what is the specific law, what is the, you know, in your state, what is the requirement in your district, and then of course, like, what, based on your child's age, what level, like, they're in. And, you know, what I'm hearing, like, so let's say for me, the example is like the kids that are around me, like in New Jersey, what is the town doing? The town has, you know, they still haven't made up their mind. So so this is actually also from all the different countries, I mean, different states as well, in terms of, like, some of them are going to physical school like 3 days a week. And then some of them are full on, like, you know, my cousin's daughter came in last week for a little vacation with us. And then she actually, the story that she told us was that they have school all day. And so they're required to sit in front of the computer all day from whatever time to, you know, so the teacher comes in, take attendance, you know, so they have to be on the Zoom, and which means they have to be on the Zoom, on camera on the Zoom, and, you know, take attendance, then go, and then I guess, you know, go to the different, depending on what, you know, the program is. A lot of the program is run by, what is that? You know, which one is it? It's Teams, right? I think and most of the students are in Teams, in terms of, like, you know, it's like Google basically. So, you know, do you know, Tiara?
I know in Culver City they use Canvas.
Or they use?
And a lot of them use, but he does go into Google for something else, but he accesses Canvas through Google.
Yeah.
But some of them do use Teams, and some of them use other platforms. I've heard quite a few.
Yeah. So, but basically, just to say, it's all different from everywhere. So you need, as a parent, need to educate yourself as to what's going on, first of all, like, you know, and so one of the things that you have parents who are already not computer savvy, meaning like they may or may not know that, you know, how to search and how to do all of this stuff. And then, so your kid is sort of left out there in front, you know, so I mean, just to being mindful as to what exactly is going on. And then depending on where you are at, some of the teachers are not that happy with what they're being told is going on even themselves. So just so that you know, in terms of like news, okay, do they know what they're doing? And I think one of you guys have brought this up. To me, no. Like right now, they don't know what they're doing. And so it's a little bit free for all and chaos and very, you know, in terms of structure, curriculum, what your child is doing. And things are just being implemented without, you know, time. So, I mean, that's what I see. And, you know, Tiara?
Yeah, I think everybody right now is just a transition. So everybody just needs to be patient with everybody. And we have to keep in mind that a lot of these teachers also have children.
Yeah.
So they have to make sure their children are online and in class and doing what they're supposed to do as well. And some of them are single parents like I am. Some of them have, you know, a significant other where they can tag team it, like in Life's case. But it's just, to me, because you said, you know, you go on and you figure out what the law is where you are. That is why I'm choosing to walk away from all of it. Because if everybody has a choice to do something completely different, does it matter anyway? I just feel like as parents, we need to discern what works for our children and what works for our family, and we need to go that route.
I'd like to jump in real quick on that. Oh, go ahead, sister. Did you want to say something, Veronica?
No, I'm finished. I didn't hear you.
Okay.
What'd you say?
No, I was just going to jump in on that. And one of the things that keeps coming up, and thank you everyone for what you were saying, from a parental level, you know, it took us years to put this together, right? For me and my wife to come together and put this all together. It wasn't just overnight. Oh, here, now you got to homeschool your kid, you know? And so I can only imagine what that's like for, you know, for others who have to deal with that. But it took us, you know, we had to actually make a lot of decisions on this path to even get to where we are, right? And that involved even me leaving my 9 to 5. You know, there was that. I decided I wanted to do the entrepreneur thing, so I did that to make this happen. And then all of the research and the work that we put into, you know, we spent a year just going over all the curriculums, all the choices that you have, right? And so, you know, there's a lot of effort put in on that side, but to see this happen where it's like, okay, bam, right in your face, now you got to figure it out. That's a whole nother challenge, you know? And so, again, one of the biggest things I could suggest is really tap into your community, and find out, you know, what's going on in the community. I know a lot of people, and here's another thing I was going to say, even for us, like, we've been in the homeschooling for 2 years, right? And so even that looks different for us now, because there's not the socialism. You know, we're not able to go to the park day. We're not able to go to the museums as we would normally go. So we've been kind of restricted on even our activities. And so what we've done here is we've made up our own activities. We've decided that a lot of nature, you know, doing nature hikes and my wife is very creative. You know, I give thanks to my wife for all that she does and all the research and things that she puts into this, because it's a lot of effort, you know, and I really give thanks to my wife, seriously. But so my wife goes and she plans out these ideas and things for us to do. And so we've had to even adjust in that area as a homeschooler. And it's been powerful even for us to have to like take reign and take control of our own destiny and teach, because otherwise where would we go to? You know, we wouldn't have we don't have any people that can connect. We can't go to the parks, you know, we can't do all these things now, but we've decided to take control. And so, you know, a lot of that is, you know, you have to go and do the work yourself, you know. So that's what I have to share about that. So thank you for the space.
I didn't consider that, Brother Sean. That's a good point. Even if you were already a homeschooler, it looks a lot different. Just like it looks different for our children who have actually come from the physical school. So I guess that's why the journey stays flexible. You have to be able to change. Destination is the same. We want them to be educated, but the journey has to be flexible.
Yeah, and one of the other things, Sister Des, you know, we've been on this journey together for the last year, and we were discussing the adaptation from leaving school to homeschool, that whole transition, and what that looks like, right? And so what you're dealing with now is you have to deprogram the child first before you can even start with the homeschooling process, you know? And so that was huge to even have to, you know, consider. And thankfully, you know, we've had to, you know, just roll in because my daughter was a baby, you know, she's been doing this since she's a baby. But for a family that has kids already in school that now have to adapt to this, there's a whole transition there.
Yeah, thank you for that, brother, because there is that transition. Even and again, I'm seeing it in my cousin's daughter and or two of my cousin's daughter, in that they're being jumped straight into online, and it is a totally different environment. And for the homeschooling parents, when I got into homeschool, Bradley had already spent, you know, up to fourth grade. You know, he's already in fourth grade, so it was like, it was called deschooling, where you had to deschool. And I had this whole thing where, I didn't have a time for him to wake up, or certain assignments, and I wasn't spending 5 hours a day, on teaching him. Because once you start homeschooling, you have to realize it's homeschooling because everything is homeschool. Usually the homeschool kids will tell you they're always at school, because then if I'm driving, he's learning the road. If we're cooking, he's learning about chemistry. If whatever it is that we're doing is a lesson. And so in a way, like, I remember the best advice, the first few months I started to say, oh, I'm going to homeschool. And then I got all these books and the parents that were homeschooling for like 20 years and they've homeschooled like, so many children. They said to me, you first start by deprogramming not just the child, but even yourself. And so I had to basically back up and just take time to, get to know what the child wanted and where he was at, and before I jumped into whatever with all of these books and curriculum. And, I had to slow down and get to know him. And so it is a process that I, do feel that is worth it, because once I was able to spend a few months doing that, by the time we did the rest of the year, the second half of the year went so fast, and he was learning so much. So yes, we're facing so many different challenges. So it's very important to know, to, like Tiara said, to be patient with yourself. So
I agree, and it's Sister Tiara said something really, and Brother Sean, it's like a mix between the both, right? Because Sister Tiara said, as far as clearly as parents, we have to be clear about what we can't for surely say we know what's going on, but there is some type of shift and experiment that's taking place with putting these children online, that we can choose to allow these people that really don't know what they're doing to experiment with these children. And what me and my wife have sat back and said, our kids are not testing them. We're not going to allow our kids to go through that process. Now, again, it's easy for us to say, but there are a lot of those parents who are not in a position to do that. So we've even petitioned schools and looking at the very basic, the elementary level. Let's utilize these high schools, these middle schools, distancing, right? Put a distance between these kids, but that to make sure that their children are at least learning physically the foundational part. And when you get to middle school and high school, it may be a little easier. It's still difficult, but a little easier to adjust. But what we have found, again, everything we're doing is physical, but when we are incorporating the digital aspect of it, we take advantage of things like Google Earth for geography. Let's look at Egypt in real time. Let's look at the Mayan empires. Let's look at that. So when we do that during the book clubs, Let's look into Florida. Let's look into where this location, what's the street. We take advantage, Great Walls of China. When was it built? Let's look at this stuff in real time. And we found that it made the process a lot more energized. The kids enjoy just going in and Googling and zooming in, because we know technology is the future and the present, but surely the future. And our children need to at least be equipped to know how to function and how to deal with that. And the other aspect is that STEM. We know that this robotics, this STEM, this engineering, we have got to get our children into that process. So we invested in like $60, $40 different equipments that you can get, and you can use the Lego and incorporate this technology with it. Looking at different, battery sets. So they build it and then the robot is moving, and just constantly looking to elevate the learning process. So I'm just encouraging that. I've never taken into the heart that the school was teaching my children, because they're not teaching, they're conditioning them, right? I realized that early. They're not teaching our children, they're conditioning our children. But I'm going to teach. And now we look at it like, wow, this is an opportunity for us to take our children to the whole nother level. But again, it's easier for me to say I and us versus like my child. If I'm not doing something with this community that my child is going to be raised in, then I suck. I failed, So as I'm doing what I need to do with my parents, with my child and what's going on at home, it becomes my duty as a community person, as a human, to impact my community in some way where we're able to catch those other children through the projects and programs that we're doing.
So you mentioned something that I can't help but also touch. How far to open this subject up is, we in the tribe, of course, are talking about it, is the fact that, there's a big test going on, and and the subject of this test is your child. And, whether or not you know this, whether or not you understand, it's happening. And as a parent, being mindful and being aware, and protecting my child is my number one job. And so I take it very personally, and I take it very seriously, as to say, like, hey, how is he doing, with all of this? And, and that, again, I fully homeschool him, and I have my own curriculum that I do with him. That's a mixture. Again, that's a mixture of everything. Yes, he does the computer. Yes, he does physical things. Yes, he does, we incorporate so many things so that it's not ever one modality, so that he can be flexible in his, how he learns. But again, taking millions of kids and testing them, and parents are just like willingly basically bringing your child in because we're rushing in, and not knowing. And that's why I say pause and take the time to learn and process, learn your child, deschooling. And, I don't even know, I'm running into my own words. Go ahead, Veronica.
If I may, then I'll just, I'll keep it running for you. Brother Life, thank you so much for that share. Actually, what Brother Life is talking about, I mean, that's real sovereign talk, and essentially I think that that's why we're all here today, is we are all to different degrees really wanting to align our children or plant the seeds for them to have less of the struggle that we had to align ourselves into the sovereign way of being. And then I think that that's like the foundation of everything, is that as parents, we really want to get our kids like on that mind frame. And essentially when I say that that's sovereign talk, it's because it really has gotten to the point, and I don't know if it's gotten to the point or maybe it's always been this way, but it's very clear where we are at this stage in the game, that it's a parent's sole responsibility to teach our kids and find your teaching moments. And I know that for some people that might seem like such an enormous leap. Like, how do I sovereign talk? Maybe you don't even know what I'm talking about, but essentially, how do we transition? How do we just transition into just going in that direction? And what I'm suggesting, even just to myself, what's coming through right now is to be able to just find my teaching moments, because that's where I am in the game with my children. Where I'm at, I am most definitely on the path of sovereignty, and I have been for a minute. And just because I'm the mom, you know, the kids are already going to be aligned in that direction simply because I'm their parent. But at this point, it's just become very clear that I really have to take the reins. Where I'm at, I really have to attune to my children, where they're at, understand how they learn. Each of them, both of my boys, learn very differently. So I have to really be able to look deeply into that and empathize with them and teach from that foundation for them so that they can receive it and really find those teaching moments, make things come to life for them. Like a lot of what Brother Life was talking about, Brother John was talking about was being able to actually go out there and apply, make these teachings, everything that's in the book, in the textbook, or online or virtually. How can I bring this to life for my kids, right? Because that's essentially what's inspiring, because this is where the kids can connect the dots, because that's where I'm coming from, is like, how can I get the kids to connect the dots? How can I support my children so that our children, so that they can essentially start to connect the dots to this beautiful puzzle, you know? And the patience that we're talking about, finding community, finding parental support, like crucial things. I need that. I need the support. That's the lifeline for me. Like, hands down, already know it. I need to be able to align myself with people that are parents and that are basically hitting the same walls. How did you navigate this? How did you navigate? What are you trying? What are you doing? What worked for you? What's your child like? What's their genealogy? Like, thank you, Tara, for mentioning that. You know what I mean? Really being able to come from a space of like, man, I really got to go all in, because I'm the one that needs to take the reins with this, because clearly there's something else that's going on, and we don't need to really go into the details and do the whole guessing game of what's exactly going on. But what I do know is that it's very clear that as parents, we need to really take on the approach of just taking the reins and focusing on that. Now it is really our sole responsibility to teach our children and just really stay connected with that, because this is how it's going to be forever. It's not going back to the way that it was. This is the game has completely changed. So that world doesn't even exist anymore. So how do we move forward? So one of the things that I had written down was that what you mentioned, Wijibi, was about understanding what your laws are. I mean, that's a reality. It's different here in Cali. I really kind of had to begin there, is how do I move forward? Well, let me check what is basically required right now, and then make a plan of action and move from there. But other than that, I'm suggesting for myself and for everybody just an enormous amount of patience. You know, hang in there, touch base with tribe, touch base with people that are on the same path with you, that have the experience. You know, we're gonna provide everybody with links and some resources to be able to continue to also have this conversation, because this story is gonna continue. You know, I can already tell it's not going to be enough with just one, because it just raises so many questions, and it's such a vast string of consciousness that we're working with. Everybody's in just such different levels when it comes to the homeschooling game.
Yeah, so with that said, I am asking that, you know, whoever watched this, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please do so. Please ask your questions. We'll come back and definitely try to answer them. And, you know, please comment or tell us about your experience, you know, with either homeschooling, or if this is your first experience So yeah, we are all definitely offering that so that the conversation can continue.
Mr. Westby,
Yes.
if I can, I think what Sister Veronica raised something that is crucial. And when it gets to the foundation, people are saying, what is it that I should be teaching my child? And I think it's the basic, right? What are some things we know our children need to learn to survive? You need to learn how to read, right? You need to learn math. You need to learn how to write. You need to have some sense of geography, how the world around you work, right? And the added bonus is we need to understand as far as the STEM and the robotics and a lot of those areas of where our world is going, especially with the whole computer. So what we do is we try to, if anything, the reward, because how do you get our kids to stay focused? They know mama and papa, you know what I mean? They know all the spots. They've only been manipulating that for years and getting the ice cream, getting all the things they want from you, right? So they know how to push your buttons. They understand all of that. So it comes with a severe level of patience that we're going to have to implement, but attach that to reward systems. When our kids, want to get into the gaming or want to get into, a little bit of TV hours, the outside, this has to be tied into this lesson plan. Once you complete this, you show this, and we don't have to just keep it within this. Like if we think of school as from this time to this time and that's it, then we have already failed, right? In that aspect and how we've been trained to think about it from how the systems look at it versus when you complete this assignment, you have until this week, this day, whatever, until this day to complete it. You teach responsibility. You teach other aspects of what it is that child needs to learn about getting this accomplished, getting this done before I move into the next step. So I think a lot of it comes with how do I prioritize and how do I set up the time where the children are learning this and they building the blocks on top of each other. It's easy for me to say it when I got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. You got 13-year-olds. So the game change. It changes when we get into that stage. So I just thought I really needed to address that as far as the basic fundamentals that our children need to learn. That reading, that writing, that math, introduce them to language. This is an opportunity to fill that sponge up, a little less on them video games, a little less on all those aspects, but use those aspects as rewards if a child is able to complete his or her assignments or task.
And they must learn the body.
Yes, the body, self.
The body.
I'm sorry.
You must learn your
biology,
yes.
science. Yes.
Yeah.
The periodic charts. We have that on the walls and we are busting that down. And we are looking at the elements. What is this? Let's start with the hydrogen. What is hydrogen? Let's look at where hydrogen plays. Like that physical and virtue, include all that in that. So thank you for that reminder.
That's it. And I'll give you a great example. Bradley was playing this video game where he learned to build an airplane. And so it was like, okay, so he's learning how to build this airplane. He found it fun. So he's spending a lot of time on this. And so he was spending a lot of time, and yes, it's a game, but at the same time, I was like, okay, you're playing this. Then he started to learn, okay, how to make the airplane fly faster. Well, now I was like, well, you need to now learn aerodynamics. So let's Google aerodynamics. So then he had to learn everything about aerodynamics. And so, and if I asked him about this subject, he knows way more than just playing with this little airplane, because he's even able to make his airplane fly faster. So yes, if the kid is playing with his video games that he's interested in, ask him questions about that specific game and the things that are in there, because these can become lessons. Therefore, it's something that he's interested in, that he actually decided to learn himself, because he was trying to make the plane on the computer fly faster, and he's able to learn thrust and lift and all different parts of an airplane that I didn't know about. And because, so just to say that once you become a homeschool parent, everything is the lesson. So, and it's all connected. So in those kind of terms, I'm just saying, like, patience and engagement. You have to be engaged in your child's, not just school life, but life, so.
Yeah, and finding those teaching moments, like exactly what you were saying, that's what I'm seeing is really key all across the board, is really just being able to find um, the teaching moments for the kids, not excluding. Don't think that you can't extract teaching from certain things like video games, and we don't necessarily want to take things away. We want to be able to implement new things, you know, so we don't like pack on these like negative connotations to video games and stuff like that, but that they just understand that there's a balance and then there's an imbalance. Really, really key foundational things for all of us.
Yeah, we just started implementing that reward system as well. So I'm gonna hit life up for some of them Robux. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. So I'm gonna throw it to Monica. Monica.
Yeah, I'm also, while you guys were saying all this, I was also thinking we also lead by example too. So I think, you know,
Oh,
Wait, she muted.
you muted,
Monica,
sis.
you muted. You've muted yourself.
you know, they're just like, what are you doing? Like, I'm taking a deep breath, you know, I'm reconnecting to myself right now because I'm getting overwhelmed. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm going to try that, you know. So even simple things like that we can help our kids just by good habits that we do. We can let them, you know, not see us so much on the phone, or not see us so much on the whatever it is that we want them to do. We just have to do it, you know. Like, I'm juicing and now they're seeing me like cut up all the juice, and they're, you know, helping me juice, and it's like the whole process, you know. So whatever it is that we want for our kids, we have to do, and we have to be, in a way. So that was kind of what was coming through when you guys were all talking. It's kind of like we are also, it's not so much about what we teach them, but what we show them, and who we are too, you know, and who we also bring into their lives too. This is why I think it's such a great thing to have this whole community where, you know, even kids could, you know, talk to each other or socialize, and just also, you know, talk about what they're feeling and what they're going through, because I think it's very important that they also vent and like, you know, just talk amongst themselves about what they're going through, because they have to be dealing with all of us and all the changes and everything that's going on. So they also need a support system as well. So, yeah.
I would say, you know, lastly, one of the problems that we're running into is so much of our programs that we've done in this community were physical. Like after school, the kids would meet, let's at a community center or at the library or at this space or that space. And while there, they were able to, you know, we just, you know, like engage, do what kids do, right? Teenagers and 11-year-olds. But one of the problems that we're running into is if the kids are going to be online from 8 to 3, then our programs begin at 4 or 5. It's like they drain. They're done. Like it's you're getting kids who's been online all day, and then we're gonna put them back online, and it's like we've been struggling with that, and we've been trying to figure out a way to how do we continue the process of the things that we're doing, but keep it excited, keep it fun, but you know, so we've been talking about, oh, keep it at about 45 minutes. Right, if we're gonna get online with them, incorporate on Mondays like a game day where, you know, the kids are competing in Madden football. You know, meet them where they're at, incorporating things that they like to do. You know, play video games together. They got all kinds of sites that the kids are already doing that stuff. And then in between, we're incorporating debates. All right, we're going to look at these two teams. How do we incorporate this and this and this? Or we look at financial literacy. If this had this using football, using basketball. So just finding ways to get really creative but bring them in for fun, because at this point, they just want to have fun. I'm done with all this stuff online, and I just want to get with my friends and have a good time. So those are things we've been struggling with, but we're constantly brainstorming new approaches to try to, you know what I mean, to tackle that and address it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I run into that with Bradley, even without, like, you know, having to be in front of the, you know, school computer all day. He's in Taekwondo and he just loves it, in terms of like physical activity, and don't have to, and one of the things like in terms of how he relaxes is that we like Sister Monica was saying, we do implement some of the things like meditation into his life, so that he's not it's all around, just to make sure, like, and this is a bigger subject, but in terms of like him grounding himself and being able, and I think at one point Tiara and I had this conversation, and being able to have the kid be okay with being with himself, because that's some of the things that the kids are running into, because they were at school and socializing. Now, hey, I'm home alone, or if it's a like Bradley's a just one kid at home, and so is it okay to like be quiet? So meaning like usually like what they'll do is like, hey, I have the music on the TV on the computer on, is can he learn to do 10 minutes with nothing on, and as adults, we are even programmed not to be able to do that. So I had to learn to do that, and so I'm starting to practice with him, like, hey, we're doing nothing right now. So
So we have a question from Sister Nadej. How do we as parents implement retention of knowledge? Is question number one. So there's 3 questions. Number 2, how do we balance the children's social life? And how do you offer a parent's support group? So how do we as parents implement retention of knowledge? We can address that. Thank you, Sister Nadej, for these great questions.
well,
I mean, what- okay, well, with anything, retention of knowledge is, depending on what platform you're using. If this is being done online, then you have to find, like, with different ways. Excuse me. Somebody else. Okay, if we're implementing something online, then with anything, just what we're doing in schools, right? I'll let somebody else take that real quick.
sure. For me, it's a lot of a couple of ways that it depends on like what the way you teach. So one of the ways that I know is, it's not that I encourage like teaching with memorization, but writing. So keeping a journal, something that I had started with Bradley. He's not really good at keeping it up, but that is a great thing to teach the kid to do, so that it's not hey, what did you learn today? And I used to tell him, like, just write a couple of lines, doesn't matter. I learned this, that, and just to encourage the writing. And it's also keeping like a journal of his life as well, so that it so that even so that it encouraged, like, it's not just about like what I'm learning in the book, that's what I'm saving, but because our journey is our life's journey. So he's saving, keeping a record of his life's journey. So so journaling to me is a great way of that, because we learn so many things, and information is everywhere. So, but the one information that's nowhere is yours, your personal information, your personal life story. So I would say keeping a journal would be number
And
one.
the second question, just so we can get through and make sure that we begin a system of support just even through this call. So how do we balance the children's social life? Any suggestions for that?
Not well. I mean, Sean and I have run into the same issue, because it's really hard right now once everything got into the lockdown. But when we were starting to homeschool, I had and it sort of answered the last question that she had in terms of community. You know, in my local area, there's a lot of homeschool parents. There were parents that homeschool, so they did have a community. So that homeschool community, they had Facebook pages. There's a Yahoo group, and then we meet physically. So it wasn't like, you know, just online. It was like, you know, we met physically. We had a lot of dates. You know, that's one of the first things that Sean was talking about, in that at the beginning, it was our schedule was very busy because there were so many activities to be had. These groups are still, you know, active, you know, where, so with the schooling parents in my area, we do get together and do all different types of activities. We had, like, you know, there was 3 different libraries within the month. So you go once a week to the different libraries, different activities, you know, going to the museum. There's, like, you know, quite a few things to do. If you're not careful, it might be too much, you know what I mean? But once we got into the lockdown, Bradley and his friend, I set up the Zoom account for them. And so with the Zoom account, we had, so he would just call his friend and they would play via Zoom. And that was when it was like total lockdown. You know, of course, now it's a little bit looser. So he does go to Taekwondo, and, you know, we do some of the different activities, not a lot, not as much as before. But just to say, like, you know, it's the same thing. Like, if you become engaged as a, you know, parent, it becomes that, you know, hey, you planned it out. And I don't necessarily, I'm suggesting groups, like in terms of like groups in like, you know, either WhatsApp or Telegram. I really say the homeschooling parents in your area, like, so in the town that I live, or just a couple of towns over, you know, because then we can physically visit each other and hang out, and they have so much resources. I mean, I met a woman who was not only a teacher for many, many years in New York City, but she homeschooled her children that are now in their 30s. So she had so much experience. So there was a lot to learn from the homeschooling parents that I've met throughout this year. So giving thanks, of course, to them, you know, for their knowledge. You know, so I would say reach out to people near you.
Well, thank you. And Sister, can you please check on your end if you have any questions that have come in so we can address them, because we don't want to go too much over.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of at that point right now. So I really want to make sure that we get to everybody's questions.
I don't see any, but I might be locked into. Let's see.
And they're asking also if we offer a parents support group.
So inside of Secret Energy, we do have the Mindful Kids group. So if you,
but we're not Secret Energy, we're portals.
Oh, many of our tribe members, you know, you get it. So, but Abundance Portal ourselves. So one of the things that I would say, please leave us your, subscribe to us, leave us a note, and then we'll work on that, you know, in terms of like getting something together. So yes, so let's do that since the question is posed. So let's definitely.
Direction for sure, Sister Nadej. Thank you again for your question.
Yeah, so sorry, I was like that. There was a lot of messages, so they're just messages, not for Mariana and Paige. So yeah, so yes, we are almost half an hour over.
It's been a great build, though. It's been a
great build. I think we lost Sister Tiara just a couple minutes ago, but we give so much thanks for her presence and her experience and all of her wisdom.
Yeah.
Thank everyone.
To unpack. You know, we still have to do this again.
Yes. So much to unpack. Yes. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I think we probably got halfway down the list of subject that we needed to discuss. Definitely will. Next week, we have a healing session. So every month, Abundance Portals is going to have a healing session. So we're bringing in Holly with the healing sounds, myself for meditation, a sister here with breath work. So super, super excited to start introducing these healing modalities to everyone, and what Abundance Portals have to offer, and the tribe as well. So with that said, I'm going to say adieu, right, Wholeness. So the next
Thank
time,
you. Thank you, everyone.
be over. So Wholeness, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right, family. Wholeness.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and I apologize for the noise that showed up towards the end. But give thanks.
You were good, brother.
Very good, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your experience and your wisdom.
I
Really
learned a lot.
appreciate everyone's presence. Likewise.
Yes.
Oh.
Wholeness, everyone.
All right, family. Wholeness.